To cover now some news from Venezuela. Viewers, Donald Trump has stated that the US is ramping up oil flows from Venezuela. He's presented the move as part of his broader energy strategy to lower costs at home and strengthen US supply. Moreover, he has framed the push for Venezuelan oil as beneficial for both countries, arguing that increased Venezuelan oil output would support American consumers while also reshape the country's energy ties in the region.
We're bringing Venezuela back, and we're going to be great for Venezuela, great for our country. We're taking in, as I said, millions and millions of barrels of oil. And now they're coming in initially on a daily basis, 50 million, and values of over $5 billion. That's in one day. Winning is a good thing. We're going to work with Venezuela. We'll make that country very strong again. We'll get oil prices down even further. We have it down at about a 6-year low, 7-year low, but we're going to get it down.
These remarks by Trump come amid fresh uncertainty over private sector involvement in Venezuela's oil industry. Trump has recently signaled that he could block ExxonMobil from investing there after the company's chief executive raised doubts about Venezuela's investment climate, pointing out the need for legal and regulatory changes. The comments by ExxonMobil's chief followed a White House meeting with leading oil executives, where the Trump administration urged companies to commit large-scale investment to revive Venezuela's oil sector after the removal of Nicolas Maduro. I request Adrian to join me back in the discussion here. Adrian, how do you think Trump is going to assuage the concerns of the oil firm executives, especially when many have said that Venezuela remains uninvestable? Can he just go on simply blocking people who make those or do those reality checks for him?
No, he's in a difficult position with this because kicking out ExxonMobil. First of all, bringing in the oil companies, I get that, but he also has to understand where the oil companies look at this. They're looking at this. This is an industry, the Venezuelan industry, that's been really run into the ground. So they're going to pour tons of investment into it. And then what happens when Trump leaves office in 4 years' time and someone else is voted into office? Is that investment safe? The millions, billions of dollars that U.S. companies, is that oil industry going to be nationalized again? Because as far as I can tell, the current government remains in place. The security apparatus remains in place. It was a decapitation strike by taking out Maduro, but everything else seems to be. And quite frankly, the current leader, she can play a stalling tactic on this if she wants to, and kind of shorten the runway and make it so that the next elections or even midterm elections, Congress can have some influence over things, make things difficult on Trump on his ambitions there. I'm not in the oil industry, but you have to imagine geological surveys need to be done. They need to do their due diligence there, and this is not a snap of the fingers and turnkey solution here that things can happen overnight.
Sure. How long, in your opinion, before Venezuela is really ready for investment by these large oil giants in America?
Well, that's difficult. I hate making predictions, and that's difficult to say.
But realistically speaking, the Venezuelan oil is thick. It needs different infrastructure. And the companies, as of now, given the political climate, are not signaling readiness to invest immediately. That's definitely going to take some time. And in fact, the same applies even for Greenland, should Trump acquire the island.
Yeah, I'm going to stay away from Greenland, but I agree with you on this. This is not a short-term, some of the short-term things that we've seen as far as confiscating sanctioned oil that was part of an illicit ghost fleet. That's one thing. But then as far as getting oil out of the ground, I will say that the Venezuelans were able to repair some of their oil industry thanks to the help of the Islamic Republic. So it's not like it's completely broken down the way it was roughly around 2019, 2020. But they can still get oil out of the ground. Now Trump needs to convince that, again, the same government is still in place. The same government, which is a socialist, bordering out almost a communist government, that at first chance that they get, they will nationalize that industry if there's not a American armada standing right outside of it. America's been down this route multiple times in Latin America, dating back to the 1900s. We do this, we send in troops some cases. In this case, hopefully we won't. But you look back to the American Fruit Company, long history in Latin America, all through Latin America. They were monopolies that controlled Latin America. So Trump needs to be careful that he doesn't fall into the same trap that America has repeatedly in the Southern Hemisphere.
And thanks very much for joining me in this discussion. With that, viewers, we're now going to proceed. Let's also in fact tell you that Venezuela's acting president Delcy Rodriguez is planning to send an envoy to Washington this week as the Trump administration is reopening its embassy in Caracas. Experts say that Trump's move is part of a broader push to restore diplomatic ties after years of suspension. The visit by Venezuelan envoy Felix Plasencia is expected to involve meetings with senior U.S. officials. Last week, the U.S. sent a small diplomatic team to Caracas to assess conditions for a possible phased reopening of its embassy, which has been closed since 2019. All right, viewers, with that, we're getting some breaking news.